आतंकियों ने हमारी बहनों का सिंदूर उजाड़ा था। इसलिए भारत ने आतंक के ये हेडक्वार्टर्स उजाड़ दिए। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने आतंक के खिलाफ लड़ाई में एक नई लकीर खींच दी है। टेरर और टॉप एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी, पीओके उस पर ही होगी। हमने पाकिस्तान के आतंकी और सैन्य ठिकानों पर अपनी जवाबी कार्रवाई को अभी सिर्फ स्थगित किया है।
For 4 days, the world held its breath. 4 days of suspense, of rising tension, of military movement and diplomatic dread. As India and Pakistan stood on the edge of what could have escalated into full-blown war, the world watched nervously. A subcontinental crisis playing out with devastating potential. And the military complex behind it was from Pakistan. The Pakistani military. Today we'll discuss what is it that the Pakistani military gains out of terrorism, out of war, out of unconventional warfare, how the Pakistani army generals fill their pockets at the cost of an entire nation. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. On 7th of May, the Indo-Pak tension reached a tipping point. After repeated attempts by Pakistan-based terror outfits to target Indian civilians, India launched a bold and precise counter-terror operation under the code name Operation Sindoor. Indian Air Force jets struck deep inside Pakistan, targeting the roots of the menace. Terror launch pads, training camps, and facilities spread across Pakistan-occupied territories and within Pakistan itself. These were not random strikes. These were precision operations targeting a well-oiled ecosystem of terrorism, one that has thrived for decades under the patronage of the Pakistan Army and its notorious spy agency, the ISI. On May 7th, India confirmed it had struck 9 targets linked to terror outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen, groups long responsible for some of the deadliest attacks on Indian soil. These precision strikes were a clear message to those who've spilled innocent blood. But for the Pakistani army, which has nurtured and backed these terror groups for decades, it was as if a personal wound had been inflicted. Their reaction was swift and desperate, a retaliatory strike targeting Indian civilians. Fortunately, their missiles were neutralized by India's top-class air defense system, causing no harm. Seizing the momentum, India intensified Operation Sindoor, launching powerful airstrikes on multiple Pakistani air bases, asserting dominance and sending a clear message to Pakistan for backing terror groups. The terror camps weren't ragtag militias in remote caves. These were organized, well-funded facilities, mini-armies trained and equipped under the protection of Pakistan's military. India's message was clear. These terror factories will no longer be tolerated, and those who shield them will be held accountable. But what happened next was not an act of retribution. It was silence, followed by confusion, followed by propaganda. Because the truth is, Pakistan's military is no longer built for real war. And worse, it's now fighting the wrong war entirely.
Well, Geeta, this is a unanimous, this is a unanimous decision right now. This is a unanimous opinion of the entire Pakistan and the entire country of in between 200 or 250 million people, less few who are on the payroll of the military or the intelligence operation, information operations, or who are part of the ruling party's media cell, that the Pakistani military has been ruling the country in one way or the other. You cannot, debate this. It is our history, right? And right now, for last 3 years, ever since the regime change operation against Imran Khan was allegedly carried out, and it was definitely talked about in the US, and Imran Khan blamed the US, and well, there was this cipher from the US Assistant Secretary of State Donald Liu, which did come forward, because of which Imran Khan is facing so many cases of treason as well. But that cipher is there. That's a proof that it was a regime change operation which was initiated by the Pakistani military on and they sought the approval of the Americans, and it's part of the history now. So ever since that regime change operation, the Pakistani military's reputation got challenged for the first time in our history. I mean, we lost half the country, and that's me, the third generation Pakistan Army officer, saying this, whose grandfather, Colonel Akbar Khan, was a prisoner of war in India for 4 years, and he was commanding 12 FF Regiment in East Pakistan. And he was such a heartbroken man after he came back from India that he left the army, migrated to Canada because he just couldn't take it anymore. But even then, the Pakistani people forgot and forgave this army, and they again came back into power with Zia-ul-Haq ruling for another 11 years, and General Musharraf ruling for another 11. And now General Asim Munir wants to follow through, and he wants to rule not for 5, not for 6, but for another 10 to 11 years. There are no two opinions. There is no doubt about it. But for doing that, you need public support, and he does not have the public support in Pakistan. The public support is for Imran Khan, for whom the people of Pakistan voted on the February 8, 2024 elections. And it's all well documented. I'm not just, making it all up. It's very well documented. So he did not have the public support. That was his problem.
Behind its nuclear bluff, behind the polished parades and blaring nationalistic rhetoric, lies a rusting institution, bloated, corrupt, and fundamentally broken. The Pakistani army, once regarded as the country's most powerful and revered force, is now a shell of what it claims to be. The illusion of military dominance has been replaced with the reality of institutional decay. Many defense analysts argue that Pakistan's army, despite its size, is simply not capable of sustained warfare against India, a far more powerful and technologically advanced nation backed by global alliances and economic might. So how does the Pakistan army maintain its image of strength? By doubling down on deception. When confronted, it resorts to the same old playbook: denial, deflection, and propaganda. And when things get too hot internationally, it retreats behind its terror proxies, outsourcing violence to non-state actors while claiming plausible deniability. But this tactic is now hurting not just Pakistan's neighbors, it's backfiring at home. Because every time the army protects and funds terrorists, it's not just India that suffers. Innocent Pakistanis pay the price too. Pakistan Army's long-standing alliance with extremist groups has turned the country into a tinderbox. These militants, once seen as strategic assets, have now become liabilities. Cities like Peshawar, Quetta, and Karachi have borne the brunt of suicide bombings, gun attacks, and sectarian violence, all offshoots of the same poisonous doctrine the army cultivated for decades. By nurturing terror networks, the military has endangered its own citizens. Countless Pakistanis have died in attacks carried out by groups once seen as friendly to the establishment, because in the game of terror, alliances are temporary and loyalties are fickle. Yet, the army continues to pour resources into these death squads, choosing to sacrifice its own people's safety to maintain its regional chess game with India. This is not strategic thinking, this is state-sponsored suicide. Over the years, Pakistan's military elite has amassed vast wealth through opaque business ventures and land allocations. Estimates place the army's business empire between $40 to $100 billion, while Army Chief Asim Munir reportedly has a modest net worth of $1 million. Ex-generals dwarf this figure. General Qamar Javed Bajwa's family wealth reportedly exceeds $150 million, while Lieutenant General Asim Salim Bajwa's assets total $47 million across multiple countries. General Raheel Sharif owns properties worth $54 million. and Lieutenant General Muzammil Hussain allegedly amassed $753 million. These figures highlight the military's deep entanglement in Pakistan's economy through corruption and the scale of unchecked enrichment. Over the years, instead of reforming its outdated and dangerous security doctrine, Pakistan Army has turned inward, transforming itself from a national defense force into the country's most powerful political and economic player. Today, the army controls massive swaths of the economy through corporate behemoths like Fauji Foundation, Askari Group, and Army Welfare Trust, influences political outcomes by backing loyal candidates and intimidating those who challenge its authority, silences dissent by censoring media, jailing journalists, and abducting activists, oppresses ethnic minorities including Baloch, Sindhi, and Pashtun populations through enforced disappearances and brutal crackdowns. This is not the work of a professional military. This is the behavior of an unaccountable mafia in uniform. Pakistan Army has become a parallel state, undermining democratic institutions, suppressing civil liberties, and waging shadow wars not just against enemies at the border, but also against critics at home. The myth of the army as Pakistan's most stable institution is collapsing. A brutal economic crisis is ripping through the country, with inflation soaring, the rupee in free fall, and the public struggling to survive under IMF-imposed austerity. In this climate of desperation, ordinary Pakistanis are asking hard questions. If the army can't win wars, can't stop terrorism, and won't stay out of politics, what exactly is it good for? The military's stranglehold is no longer accepted without protest. Mass movements have emerged, not just from activists or ethnic groups, but from mainstream voices. The public disillusionment is deepening, especially after the open confrontation between the military and former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who once enjoyed the army's backing but is now its fiercest critic. The army's sacred status has been shattered. It is no longer beyond reproach. It is being held responsible, loudly and publicly. India's Operation Sindoor was more than a military mission. It was a symbolic rupture, a moment that exposed the emptiness of Pakistan's military bravado. The strikes targeted not just buildings or bunkers, but the very illusion of invincibility that the Pakistan Army has used to dominate its nation and terrorize its neighbors. For decades, this army propped up jihadist networks, manipulated elections, and looted the economy under the guise of national interest. But on 7th of May, a mirror was held up to that illusion, and many Pakistanis didn't like what they saw. Today, Pakistan Army is not preparing for a conventional war with India because it can't. It lacks the discipline, resources, and public mandate. This is what the military-industrial complex in Pakistan has become, a threat to the very nation it claims to protect. Its dependence on terrorist groups has made it globally suspect. Its interference in politics has made it domestically hated, and its internal paranoia has hollowed out any real capability to face a real enemy on the battlefield. So can this army, bloated with businesses, drunk on power, and shielded by terrorists, ever win a real war? The hard answer is no. Because war isn't just about guns and jet. It's about morale, unity, and purpose. And Pakistan Army has none left. Instead of defending its nation, it is defrauding it. Instead of protecting its people, it is endangering them. And by using terror as state policy, it is not just destroying its neighbors, it is destroying itself from within. May 7th was not the beginning of a war, it was the beginning of an awakening, a moment when more and more Pakistanis began to realize the truth. Their army is not their shield, it is their burden. Thank you for watching Statecraft.